whatever the Egyptians were doing, I think they were the most advanced civilization that ever existed. I don't think we can do what they did. The precision in which they built it, I really don't think we can do that. Just the symmetry of the faces of the statues is unparalleled, and they're immense. These are monstrously huge, perfectly symmetrical faces.
Right.
Their temples are insanely intricate.
They were incredibly advanced.
Incredibly advanced.
With math, with science, with technology.
Certainly with geometry. 20-ton gigantic stone blocks that were taken from a mountain 500 miles away. And no one has any idea how the fuck they got them.
Nobody has any clue.
No guesses.
Right.
There's some guesses about, oh, maybe the river system was different back then. Whatever. How are you getting that 50-ton chunk of granite out of a fucking mountain and moving it down, even with modern equipment? How are you getting it over the mountain?
There is a hidden history in Egypt that we were not allowed to know, and it all has to do with the brain. All of their imagery was symbolic, and they were trying to explain how to use your brain and develop consciousness so that their society thrived. Now, for example, this is the brainstem, and it represented the god Osiris. And if you look very closely, these similarities are way too accurate to dismiss. And this is all throughout the country, and these things are written in stone. It's very hard to change what's written in stone. And now that we have advanced anatomy images and the ability to create these impressive graphics, which is from Magical Egypt, if you haven't checked it out, you should definitely go look at it. But their goal was to create a prosperous society, and they knew that if they taught people how to use their brains correctly and develop as conscious people, then their society would thrive. So, their way of educating was through images. For example, this snake represents the unity of the two hemispheres of the brain and the emergence of a conscious being. That's why the kings and queens had it.
Grand Rising, if you are watching this video right now, I believe it's not by accident. God wants you to know the truth, and not just God, but God of black people wants you to know the truth. The truth they have been hiding from you, the truth beneath the sand, locked away in forbidden scrolls and erased from the books you were taught in school. This message isn't just about ancient Egypt. This message is about you. It's about your power. It's about your identity and your divine connection for a civilization they tried to erase. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear, it will shake the foundations of everything you thought you knew. And once you know the truth, there's no going back.
Look at this building. In the one structure, there is enough for 30 Empire State Buildings. That's in New York, right? The Empire State Building was a great structure. There is enough granite to build all of the churches and cathedrals in England from the time of Christ until now, in one building. Yeah. The corners of the pyramid are perfect right angles. So there goes your geometry and all your math, right? This is 2500 BC, long before the Greeks. The corners are perfect right angles. If you take the perimeter of the pyramid and then you divide it into the height of the pyramid twice, you have what is called this universal equation called pi.
Yes.
And the pi equation, this is a universal equation used by mathematicians and engineers. So the ancient Egyptians knew about pi. They had all the angles. They had everything in place. This is an amazing structure, that they actually put there. And so this flies in the face of the racist concepts that Africa has done nothing for the onward flow of civilization, because at that time, the ancient Egyptians were basically the people from the south, and then there were the people in the north as well. It's the Ethiopian people, some call the Anu people, the Nubians, who initiated the society, and then they dealt with the people in the delta, right? And so they united themselves and they formed this civilization. There are no people who have come in from Persia or Babylonia at that time. The Greeks and the Romans, there was no Romans. The Greeks hadn't even formed their city-states. Right. People in France and in Scandinavia and England, they were living in caves. Yeah. So this is the ancient world. And this completely flies in the face of racism.
That's one of the things I would most like you to come away with from this lecture. First of all, you cannot study the Egyptians as an archaeologist or as an astronomer or as a philosopher or as an anthropologist. You must put it all together because they put it all together. If you read what the Greeks said, not what we think, but if you read what the Greeks said, they said they got everything from Egypt. They got all their knowledge from Egypt. Pythagoras spent 15 years in Egypt, and what did he have to do? He probably had to spend 5 years convincing them that he was worthy to get the knowledge that they had. Remember, knowledge was power. Knowledge was sacred. Knowledge was something you just didn't publish in the newspapers. Knowledge was guarded very closely because it was of tremendous value. You wouldn't give it to anybody. You would give it to somebody who was willing to shave his head and be a penitent for 5 years, and then you might start to tell him things. Okay? And the Greeks did this. Pythagoras did this. Other Greeks did this. And they said that they got all their knowledge from the Egyptians. Now, when did we come up with the idea that the Greeks created everything from scratch? Well, believe it or not, it happened in the 18th and 19th century. And it's an unfortunate fact of life that Romanticism, which has many great things about it, also has a dark side, which has to do with racism. And in the 18th and 19th century, it was decided that it was just not appropriate for all this knowledge to come from an African country. Where would that knowledge, if it survived to the time of the Roman Empire, where would it have been kept? Yes. In Alexandria, in the museum, the library at Alexandria. And what happened to the library? It was burned in a war, okay? And at that point, what happened to those books that were burned? If they were written in living languages, there was a scholar someplace who had memorized the book and could just write it down again. But if it was in a dead language, like ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, end of story. Can't be reconstructed.
He said 30% of all African Americans have white paternity because of the slave trade, the raping of black women. 30%. You go around and look at black Americans, 30%. Somewhere back there, it may be the 5th, 6th, 7th grandfather, somewhere back there is white paternity. But that's not 300, that doesn't go back necessarily 300 years either. So now, this is why I'm talking about plausibility. So you can argue, people say, oh, well, you know, Cleopatra was Greek. Wait a minute. What you mean? You mean her 300 years earlier, her ancestor Ptolemy was Greek. That's what you mean, because you can't mean anything else. Not given the fact that they were ruling in a black country. 300 years in a black country, and you were telling me that they had some sort of pure Greek ideology when the kings had 3 and 4, and some of them 5 wives. You tell me none of them were black or African? You tell me no woman married an African, an Egyptian? No, that's not plausible. It's not plausible at all. Doesn't make any sense. And so why is there that's why I'm asking you why there was an outcry. Shakespeare even said, when he's talking about Cleopatra, he used the word tawny, meaning brown skin. Shakespeare didn't see her though, because of course this was nearly 1,000 years. It was a long time before Shakespeare, right? But one of the people who is spreading this is a guy named Zahi Hawass. And he's not an eyewitness. He is a propagandist. You don't know a propagandist until you meet him. I met him. And you know where I met him? Right here in Philadelphia. We led a demonstration against him in Philadelphia at the Franklin Museum. Some people remember that. There was a sister named Helen Blue who was a news reporter. And we finally cornered him. And Helen said to him, why are you saying that the ancient Egyptians were not black? And he looked at it and said, well, they were black. Of course he knew they were black. This is Zawi Hawass. I'm saying this for the world to know. This guy is a commercialist. His idea is to propagandize for Egypt's economy. That's what he does. I found a new discovery. Wait a minute. There are thousands of things in Egypt. Thousands of figurines and statues. You can find one every week if you're digging in the right place, you see. And sometimes he's not digging. He's just found somebody who has found something and brought it to him and told him. So he's not a scholar. He's a propagandist, even though he went to the university here in Philadelphia. In some Renaissance arts, Cleopatra is portrayed as dark-skinned, a black woman, in the terminology of that time. The artists based their opinion on the fact that she was from Africa and ruled an African country. These opinions were from their own assumptions or conclusions about Africa and Egypt. Now, there are a lot of Arabs in Egypt who don't believe they're in Africa. I meet them. I said, well, Dr. said, we're happy to see you. Where are you going from here? I said, I'm going to Ghana. They said, oh, so you're going to go to Africa? I said, I'm in Africa. I'm in Egypt. I'm already in Africa. No, I'm not. It's not like it's a different continent. You know what I'm saying? Egypt is Africa, you see. But there are people who don't want to claim that, and I'll tell you why in a minute, all right? So, but a reality check. This is Sheikh Anta Diop. This is an ancient picture of Egyptians, and these are current pictures of Egyptian children in Egypt, right? And they don't look like the Arab children that you know about from Cairo, right? But they're there. They're still there. Just like if you go to Libya, you still see the black people in Libya who were there before the Arabs came to Libya. That's why I don't like people talking about Africa south of the Sahara. The Sahara is Africa. There's no straight line across the Sahara where black people do not exist, or where only white people exist. No. The Sahara is Africa. It's all of it is Africa. It's African continent. We don't make a distinction in the United States by saying you're west of the Mojave Desert or east of the Mojave. When you go into California, you know what I mean? This is a part of the United States, the Mojave Desert, you see? But this is a reality check. And I got hundreds of pictures of black people in Egypt. I just haven't figured out how to take them off my phone. So that's why I am showing them to you. I have to get my grandson to do that, right? But it's this is very fascinating to me. Even if you get the clarity of the legacy, Herodotus even said that the Chaldeans were descendants of the Egyptians because like them, they have black skin and woolly hair. But William Wetmore Story, he did a Cleopatra in 1858. This is not an African man who did this, and he did an African Cleopatra. An African Cleopatra in 1858 in this country, a statue of an African Cleopatra. Now, not only did he do that, but approaches to Cleopatra are many. And we know, and this is why Jada Pinkett Smith must be given credit as a celebrity for being willing to at least raise the consciousness of the world to the fact that Africa's civilization is very powerful, and people want to steal it. People want to take it. Everybody want to go and take Africa. Edmonia Lewis, one of the greatest artists who ever lived in the United States of America, her Cleopatra in 1876 was on exhibit at the World's Fair in the Fairmount Park here in Philadelphia. as a black Cleopatra. In 1878, nobody's questioning her in 1878. And people say, okay, yeah, she ruled in Africa. No issue. However, I want to let you know that the first woman ruler in the world was black. Her name was Mernith. And she ruled 2,900 years before Jesus Christ. Wait, think about that. We don't get Cleopatra till about 2,000 years later than Mernith. More than 2,900 years later, almost. 2,900 years after Mernith, we get Cleopatra. So the first female leader and ruler in the world that we have a record of is a black woman named Mernith. And then we get Sobeknefru. Then we get, in around 1478 BCE, before the Christian era, we get Hatshepsut. And then after Cleopatra, because Cleopatra is around 30 BCE, but after Cleopatra, we get Amatorinsis. That's the woman who stopped the Romans from invading Nubia.
Grand Rising Kings and Queens, welcome back to my YouTube space. To all my returning viewers, wow, I believe you are the true warriors, the lovers of truth. Thank you so much. And to all my new viewers, my new subscribers, you are about to hear a lot, the truth that we speak out here. So your energy, your time, your mind is sacred. I don't take it for granted. I've had the video and everything about Egypt. We call it Kemet. And let me start with the basic. They told us that Egypt was built by slaves. They told us that it was a mysterious desert empire, that it was whitewashed, disconnected from Africa, and full of strange gods and tombs. But the truth is, ancient Kemet, the real name for Egypt, was black. It was African, and it was powerful beyond anything they had admitted. Dr. Malachi Z. York, in his book, The Sacred Records of Atum, emphasized that Kemet was not just a place, but a divine blueprint. So, a memory etched into the DNA of African people. He called it a physical affection of the spiritual world, a gateway between dimensions. So the ancient Egyptians were not just pyramid builders. They were mathematicians, they were astronauts, they were spiritual and scientists and engineers too. And the reason we know this is not because of guesswork. It is because the evidence is literally carved into the stone. Temples aligned with star systems, sacred geometrics etched into the architecture, healing practices based in cosmic law. One thing is that they don't teach you this in school. They don't put it in a documentary. Why? It is because of black people knew that the same people who looked, if black people knows or knew the same people who looked like them build a civilization so advanced, still baffled modern engineers, it will break the chains of inferiority. They said we are inferior, that we didn't build anything. They brought civilization, but civilization was there in Kemet. And if black people knows this, maybe it will destroy the lie that Africa was always poor, primitive, and backwards. And that's why they did not teach us in schools about this. That's why they didn't say anything about this. When I talk about the pyramids, especially the Great Pyramid of Giza, not just a tomb, but a cosmic machine. Did you know that the Great Pyramid is aligned with the incredible precisions to the true north, or its base is a perfect square, and that it encodes the speed of light, the dimensions of the earth, and the golden ratio? Do you know that? How did so-called primitive Africans do this without advanced technology? Some researchers, even mainstream ones, are starting to admit the builders had knowledge that we still don't fully understand. Not just technical knowledge, but spiritual alignment with the universe. That's true. Spiritual alignment with the builders or with the universe. The pyramids were harmonic generations, frequency tools built to elevate consciousness. He taught that the builders were not just human, but a mixture of divine beings called the Elohim, who came to earth to establish balance and knowledge. Now, here is where the mystery deepens. Underneath the pyramids, there are hidden chambers and tunnels. Even Zahi Hawass, the mainstream Egyptologist, admitted there is more beneath the Sphinx and Giza Plateau that they haven't revealed. Why? Because what is hidden underground might change our entire understanding of human history. What is hidden beneath the tombs of the pyramids of Giza may unlock our knowledge. Some say it's a hall of records, a legendary archives of ancient knowledge said to hold the truth about human origins, spiritual science, and even, some things that we might just want to know. But the moment people like Dr. Malach Zediok and others started speaking about it openly, calling it African knowledge, black wisdom, they were ridiculed, criminalized, or silenced. You heard me right. Let me talk about the ancient Egyptian gods. Or as we should say, let's talk about Neteru. These weren't just mythical figures. They represented aspects of human minds, the cosmos, and universe principles. Isis, Orisis, Horus, is it thought? These were not just religious characters, but spiritual archetypes. The divine, feminine, rebirth, the third eye, sacred wisdom. Why don't they teach us that? Why did you not learn about that in school? It is because that this knowledge leads to self-mystery. It teaches that God is not outside of you. God is within you. You are divine. You are eternal. You are powerful. And when black people truly knows this, they can no longer be manipulated. God is within you. That's the reason why they replaced African spirituality with colonial religion. That's why they demonized our symbols. The eye of Heru became the evil eye. The ankh became demonic. The scrab beetle became creepy. But all these symbols have deep meaning. The ankh represents eternal life. The eye of Heru represents a spiritual vision. The scarab or the scarab means transformation and rebirth. Dr. York often said, symbols speak louder than words. They bypass the logical mind and unlock the spirit, and that's why they had to distort them. Now, let's look at the stolen legacy. How much of this African wisdom was taken and hidden by outsiders? The Greeks studied in Egypt, Plato and even Hippocrates learned from Egyptian temples. They did not invent philosophy or medicine. They inherited it from Kemet. But when Europeans began to colonize Africa, they made sure to separate Egypt from the rest of Africa. They painted the pharaohs white. They say Egypt was Middle Eastern. They used Hollywood to make movies where Cleopatra looks like a white woman and Pharaoh looks like an English actor. And it is cultural theft. This is erasure, but worst of it, it is spiritual war, because the real message of Egypt is about black excellence. The real message of Egypt is about global unity and universal law. And if black people reconnect with that, the whole world shifts. There are some mysterious things they don't want us to know or to understand. And one of it is the Dendera temple. It has images that look like electric bulbs, sparking the theory that ancient Egyptians had electoral knowledge. Things they don't want to know in some tombs. There is evidence of advanced surgeries, metal implants, and dental procedures. Long before modern science, we still have medics doing surgery. In Egypt, the Sphinx may be older than 10,000 years, eroded not by wind, but by rain. This means that there was a highly advanced civilization in Africa before the desert even formed. Something again they don't want you to know. The so-called Book of the Dead is not about death. It's a guide to spiritual awakening. It speaks of the soul traveling through dimensions, unlocking wisdom, facing truth. All of this was African genius, but instead of celebrating it, they have buried it. Now, we ask, who benefit from the knowledge being hidden? Those who build systems on white supremacy, those who made profit from colonizing Africa, those who need black people to feel inferior. If we knew the truth that the same people, the enslaved ones, built pyramid, mapped the stars and understood sacred energy, we will never accept change again. This is why schools don't teach it. This is why the media ignores it. This is why movies distort it, because knowledge is power, and real power can't be controlled. But family, awakening has begun. More and more of black people are asking questions. More are reading, researching, remembering. And this is not just about Egypt. It's about reclaiming our history as black people. It's about healing our spirit. It's about preparing what's coming. So, the teaching, hello, Nani? Niko busy. When you talk about the teaching that Dr. Malachi York shared that sparked fear in the system, he wrote that ancient Egypt was a galactic university, a training ground for souls, and that our ancestors were not only human, but celestial. He described the Sphinx as a spiritual gateway, not a statue. He said that hidden beneath it was a time capsule left by our ancestors, a library of knowledge meant to activate us in this time. He taught that the millennium or the melanin in our skin isn't just pigment. It's a divine conduct. It is a spiritual antenna that connects us to the higher frequencies. York warned that the system was built to keep us disconnected from this truth, and that is why he was targeted, discredited, and locked away. Whether you agree with all his teachings or not, the suppression of his knowledge tells you everything you need to know. Suppression, the hidden, the burying of the books tells you what you need to know. What you can do with all this is that start learning. Start learning, start researching, share this video, read the book of Coming Forth by Day, study African cosmology, read Dr. York's work, follow the signs your ancestors left in the stars, in the temple, in your own DNA. Don't let their lies be stronger than your truth. Don't let their history books silence your memory. You are not lost. You are not forgotten. You are not a slave. You are a descendant of a master builders, spiritual scientists, and divine beings. The real Egypt is within us. The real God is within us. So tell me what you think on the comment section about this video. Until next episode, I say peace be with you.